like you said, Joel Embiid is the Sixers. I would argue Marcus Smart in many ways is the Celtics. And that's with a Jaylen Brown and a Jason Tatum on the roster.
All right, so the other extension news that we got was Marcus Smart agreeing to a 4-year, $77 million, quote unquote, max contract extension with the Boston Celtics. I only say that that is the most they were allowed to offer because NBA extension rules are stupid. But it is not. If he became a free agent next summer, he could have potentially earned a lot more than that.
Correct.
So, he understand, like 20 million, almost 20 million a year is nothing to sneeze at for a guy who is, not a superstar by any means. He is a really good role player, and especially for that Celtics team, has been such a good fit with them really for the last 6-7 years at this point.
Same draft class as Embiid, so 7 years in. Yeah.
And so I can understand it from his perspective, like seeing what happened with Dennis Schroeder, where, you're offered $84 million and then his now teammate Dennis Schroeder have to settle for a 1-year, $5.9 million contract. Like there is some inherent risk in turning down the bag, whether it's injuries or just the market drives up and you're left without a chair in the free agent musical chairs. So what did you think of this deal for Smart and for the Celtics?
I think it was a lot, but I don't think I'm at that point where I go, oh, it's an overpay, because I understand what he does for that team, not just on the court, but also internally. Like you said, Joel Embiid is the Sixers. I would argue Marcus Smart in many ways is the Celtics. And that's with a Jaylen Brown and a Jason Tatum on the roster. So he's like the heart of that defense. Do I think at times that he becomes a little bit overrated defensively by NBA Twitter? Yes, because sometimes it's like Scottie Pippen comparisons that are getting thrown out there, which relax. But he is superbly good defensively. There's no doubt about it. He took a major leap as a facilitator last year over the course of the past, let me look it up actually. I want to say 4 seasons that he's become a much better three-point shooter. Okay, 3 seasons. Over the past 3 seasons, he's become a substantially better three-point shooter. He's become more efficient overall. Like, I just don't see his career declining anytime soon. So I think they're paying him at the right moment in time. I think they're getting him through the best years of his career. And I just don't think there's any downside to doing that. Like getting a guy in his prime and paying top dollar for a guy in his prime, that's objectively a good thing. That is what NBA teams are supposed to be doing. Like, would I be more worried about getting this type of contract after this one? Yes, that's when I would be a little bit more skeptical, but I just don't have an issue with it. Not right now. He's 27. He's playing 33 minutes per game. He's a pseudo starter. He starts most of the time. I think he only came off the bench 3 or 4 times, 3 times last year. So, how can you have a problem with this contract? Really, I don't see one.
Yeah, I mean, he's now in line to be their starting point guard after they traded Kemba away, and Dennis Schroeder signed with them, but it sounds like they plan to have him come off the bench and be the super sub that he was in OKC, which I think is honestly the best role for him. I hope he embraces that role and doesn't get feisty. If like Marcus Smart, for everything he does well, efficiency is not among his strong suits.
Right.
He's had 1 season where he shot at least 40% from the field. Channeling his old teammate Terry Rozier in that regard. But I mean, he does bring a ton else to the table, and as now their primary playmaker, like I don't think he's going to average 20 points and 8 assists per game this year.
Right.
Like I'm not expecting that type of a leap, either as a scorer or as a playmaker. The offense is still going to run through the Jays. They have Al Horford back, who is a good passer, good facilitator, can do a lot from the high post in particular. So, I would guess he still winds up probably around these same averages next year, even though he is the nominal starting point guard now. But I mean, this at least locks him into I'm a part of this future Potentially. The one hiccup here is that the Celtics, before this extension, if they had just wiped the books clean next offseason, they could have cleared max cap space. And Bradley Beal, as of right now, has not signed an extension with the Washington Wizards. Theoretically, will become a free agent.
Right.
Has very close ties to Jason Tatum. There's definitely a world where the Celtics could have been first in line for the services of Bradley Beal. So this at least wipes out the possibility of a pure, we have enough cap space, we can just sign you outright. That said, I mean, especially given the upgrades that Washington made this offseason, I don't think you can bank on Bradley Beal requesting a trade this year, or maybe he's so happy that he signs an extension with them because he really does seem to love the Washington area. But also sign-in trades have become so much more popular over the last 2 or 3 years that if it's I don't think it's going to be an issue either way. If Bradley Beal,
it has had a resurgence, yes.
Yeah. So if Bradley Beal really wants to go to Boston next year, he'll end up in Boston.
Right. That's how Boston, it works now.
Yeah, Boston will find a way to dump Marcus Smart somewhere, either to Washington or another team, dump Al Horford, or just waive. He's only got $14.5 million guaranteed next year. They will figure out a way to make it work. So if I'm a Celtics fan, I would not be fretting about oh no, we just took ourselves out of the Bradley Beal market. You made it a little harder on yourselves, but it'll still work out.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, have we shut the door on actually starting Marcus Smart as the 2 guard and Peyton Pritchard at 1? Because I kind of like that a little bit more. And I know that some people are basically painting the backcourt next year as Marcus Smart and Josh Richardson, but I'm so out on Richardson at this point. I probably would rather prefer someone who's a more reliable shooter, such as Peyton.
Mm-hmm. No,
is that a dumb backcourt?
Idea.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll happen to start the year. I'll say that much. But
yeah.
If Pritchard consistently outplays Richardson and Schroeder, something you have to consider.
Well, so I'm assuming Schroeder is basically locked in as a 6-man. I think that's regardless of what happens, Brad Stevens. Wow. I think he is absolutely locked in as just permanent 6-man, and then the point guard situation is more or less Marcus Smart and Peyton Pritchard.
Yeah.
That wouldn't shock me. Yeah.
I mean, either way, it's going to be some combination of Smart, Richardson, Schroeder, Pritchard. That's your backcourt rotation.
Right.
And that's, compared to what they were trotting out last year, they trotted out the corpse of Jeff Teague for half the season. That's a big upgrade over what they had last year. I'm just higher in general on this Celtics team now than I was. Last year was just weird. They just never seemed to figure out who they wanted to be, and it had the Kemba knee issues.
Right.
Started salary dumping at the trade deadline with Daniel Tice, who was their best big. The Tristan Thompson thing just did not work at all. But now, they have, between that backcourt, the Jays, Horford, Robert Williams, still they have a pretty solid top 8. And then, Neesmith was actually pretty decent in summer league from what I heard. And who knows?
Pritchard too.
Pritchard. Yeah. Pritchard, everything I saw, I read about him was that he was just too damn good for summer league, which is great.
He was. And then he got shut down in the championship game by Davion Mitchell.
Oh, no. Oh, man. Yeah, we're going to have to recant some Davion Mitchell slander if that keeps up, because I heard
Did we ever slander him? I just think we were...
Not him. It was the pick in general.
The pick, right. Yeah, exactly. I still think that's weird. I mean, I get the whole 3-guard lineup, but come on. That's... yeah.
Yeah, we're going a little too far with that. But yeah, I mean, going back to the FanDuel odds, they are 6th in the East right now. I guess that's about right, because Miami and Atlanta, I don't know. I mean, I think the Celtics are always just lurking there as we could be a lot better than you think we are with the 2 Jays in particular. So I wouldn't be surprised if they push their way into that top 4 conversation this year. Yeah, I don't know.
I know you were expecting. I'm nodding. I mean, I agree because look, when you have Tatum and Brown, that's all you need at this point. I think when you have two players of that caliber who are only going to get better, like yeah, the top four is definitely open to you. I don't expect them to finish there. To be honest, I do think the East has gotten so much better, and I think there are teams out there that could perform better than the Celtics. What I think they could be is one of those interesting playoff wild cards. Like they might have a worse regular season record, and then when the playoffs roll around, they somehow hit a level of play they haven't really reached over the course of the regular season, and they start just pounding on, lower level seeds teams. Like who knows? I wouldn't be shocked. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. There, regardless of where they end up seeding wise, I don't think you're going to be psyched to draw this team in the first round.
No.
But you could say that about a lot of the East. Like
we always say that. It seems like whoever always makes the 8th seed, we have to always. Wow, nobody wants to play those. I guess it's the same regurgitation every time around. But no, for the Celtics, I think it's true. If they end up getting 8th, I don't necessarily think that's the case, but we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked whatever happens. The only thing I'll say is if one of Jalen and or Jason goes down with a long-term injury, and knock on wood that doesn't happen, that probably writes their season.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, they have some good like complementary guys, but they are still very top heavy with those two.
Yeah. To the point where I might have a hot take.
Ooh.
I think both of them are going to average over 28 points per game.
Tatum wasn't far away. He was at 26.4 last year.
And I think Brown, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, he just took a huge leap forward as a scorer last year, too.
And I don't think he's done. We are seeing these step-by-step developments and improvements. I don't think he's done, Bri.
Yeah, I think it's at least within the realm of possibility. I'll give you that for sure.